Hey, so something dawned on me, and it was really, really cool to have this, I guess, kind of conversation. I had, I guess, at work with a coworker. So I find myself in situations where, like, uh, I'm an involved dad, and by me being an involved dad, I'm around women who don't have a dad involved, and it's challenging having this simple conversations because like a woman perspective is I can do this by myself, and a man perspective is why would I do it by myself? Why? I know the outcome is better not doing it by myself. So women in general, they will have a sense of the way they operate and the way they interact with their kid is different from what they would do if the other person had a dad around. And it brought up a conversation about like it being easier. And to me, it is easier without the other parent because there's no bounce back. There's no pull. It's my way or the highway, everything moving forward. But the complications is kids need a sense of balance, for example, if Zoe mad at me, I need for her to be able to go tell her mama she mad at me. Or she mad at her mom, I need for her to be able to tell her mama, tell me about her mom. I need for her to be able to have an outlet because when kids don't have an outlet, they have this sense of me against the world. And in reality, it's not you against the world. It's who on your team against the world. And these kids are being raised in an environment where it's like they're looking for self-gratification in the world instead of internally. Because when we grew up, totally different time, but it's hard to even compare the times because you can't compare something that you didn't have a choice. And it's just like these kids. These kids don't have a choice but to be raised in this world that they're in now. And 20, 25 years ago when I was my child's age, I didn't have a choice, you know what I'm saying? But from me not having a choice, I learned and I gained and I developed. And that's one of the issues I learned and I have struggles with having a conversation about kids because like nobody knows their kid like them. So for you to have a conversation and say, well, I wouldn't be going through that if I was you. Like most people when I talk to, I tell them a story about what's going on. Their first instinct is, well, that seems like extra stress to you. And I'm like, it's not extra stress. It's stressful. And then they're like, well, you should be praised for being involved because a lot of kids don't have their dad involved. And, my response is always the same. You don't get credit for some stuff you supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be in your kid's life. Now, how you be in your kid's life is challenging. It has its obstacles and hurdles. But you can't be in a situation where you feel like, yeah, I need a pat on the back for being a good father. No, because in reality, you're supposed to be a good father or you're supposed to be trying to develop the skills that make you a good father. You can't be in a situation where you're like, I don't feel appreciated. Because that's one of the things about women, men definitely always frown upon because women have this sense of feeling the need to be appreciated when you shouldn't have to feel appreciated with some stuff you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? The appreciation should be internally. The appreciation shouldn't be you searching for external factors and external feelings from the world that's going to make you feel accepted. Because you don't want your kid to feel like that. Because I know a lot of women have resentment towards their kids. And it's because they have resentment towards their parents. It's a continuous cycle. And like for example, like my dad was around, but if you compare my dad to me, he wasn't around. If you compare them. But if you compare my dad to my best friend's dad, I had dad of the year. So you start looking at those different factors, you really can't compare those things because every situation is different. So it's like, what skill did you learn from that situation, Michael? We can have that conversation. How did you develop from what you learned to help you now? That's something we could talk about. But we can't talk about my dad wasn't around enough, so it affected me a certain way. If my dad was around, it would have affected me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no positive or negative in the living moment. You can reflect on it, but in the living moment, because it's a parent's role to take care of their kids. And my opinion is you take care of them the best way you can and live with the results. You can't be like, I want my kid to this standard. Because, like, I noticed my child grades the same every year. Every year they the same. First 9 weeks, second 9 weeks, it'd be the same grades that's improving, the same grades that's decreasing. And it's like, who do I get mad at? Do I get mad at the teacher? Do I get mad at me? Do I get mad at Zoe? No, I just reflect on it and be like, how can I get better next time? Yeah. My child likes to read, but she likes to read what she want to read. She don't like to read what I feel like is going to help her. But it's one of those things like, shoot, I'm glad you're reading. But in order for me to challenge her, I have to think of ways to challenge her. So I'm like, all right, Zoe, you're going to read this kind of book in the week, this kind of book on the weekend. And that's how we're going to rock. And, that's what we do every year, though. But it's every year. So I'm like, maybe next year I can get on the ball a little better. But it's part of the co-parenting thing. You know what I'm saying? When you're co-parenting, it's one of those things that happen when you co-parent. You have two parents with two different skill sets giving her two different things. Like, for me, if something is to make sense, I'll excel in it. But if it's something that has variables that causes some type of cloud judgment, I suck at. Like for example, I can read and comprehend, but I struggle with the whole why I'm reading this. If I'm questioning why I'm reading this, I'm in trouble. I disengage. I'm looking to answer questions, not properly understand. That is my weakness, but that's like that in my life. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that at a young age, but it's one of those, how do you get better at it? Oh, okay, cool. You know your limitations, okay? You learn how to use what you have to get what you need, and that's your limitation. You can't have this high standard. I'm not about to have this high standard. But when it comes to my child, my child's smart, but most kids are smart because most kids are sponges. But most kids not able to use that sponge soaking material into something that's going to benefit them. You know what I'm saying? Like, my child knows a lot about what I do on a regular basis, but when it comes down for her to do what she needs to do, we got problems. Give you an example. She'll remind me, hey, Dad, you need to do this, you need to do that, you shouldn't be doing that. But we walk out the house, she ain't got no sports bra on, she ain't grab a water bottle, she ain't got a bag, she left something. Like, the average week of school, she forgets something. And it's one of those, like, it happened. You know what I'm saying? But I have to teach her ways that's going to help her get better at what she does. So, like, for example, yesterday, we sat down and made a checklist on what she's going to need when we leave the house for basketball. So now, we don't have to have a conversation. You know why we don't have to have a conversation? Because we have a checklist that she can look at and she can practice. And that's what she's going to start in a few days with this whole medicine, because she doesn't take her medicine regularly. I don't take my medicine regularly. But I know the consequences of me not taking my medicine regularly. My kid, she doesn't understand the consequences of not taking her medicine. It happens. She feels it. It hits her like her allergy meds. She don't take her allergy meds, so she keep getting sinuses issues. Okay. Well, I can't make her take her allergy meds. Nope. But I can help her develop better techniques. And that's what I'm talking about. Teaching them the whole skills process of getting their goals and their things that they need to be met done. So like me and my coworker, we were just kind of going back and forth, and when I had these conversations, people get really defensive. And they supposed to get defensive because they're defending themselves in the situation. But I'm normally disturbed because I'm like, your thinking gonna create more issues than me and my issues. But it's one of those like, who am I to question somebody else? My job is to learn from those situations. Learn from those situations to help me. Learn from those situations to help others. Because that's pretty much what it is in my role and the things that I do and the things that I don't do. Yeah. So, all right. Peace out. Holla.